instead of doing the Cali video today, I said to Ben, we just recorded a podcast 2 days ago, and Ben, it went live today. Mm-hmm. So that podcast went live today, and that was a real short one, and it was really a kind of an update on the Cali video series, but also to share this idea of things don't go well. It did not go well. I think that was, what day was it? Tuesday? It was Tuesday that we filmed it, and it went really poorly. And I stewed about it for 24 hours, and now I don't even think about it. We started to actually, I wouldn't say I stewed on it for 24 hours, but it bothered me for a while. Towards the end of it, we laughed about it. I talked about that in the last podcast of, it's just, you let it go and you move on. And I did. But what I didn't let go was the idea of how am I going to do things better? How are we going to improve on it? And so today the podcast is talking about that. It's actually kind of an extension of the Cali Keep On series, because instead of us filming it, I'm just going to tell you what I'm thinking, how I'm planning it out. This is the first time I think we're probably using these two different platforms somewhat interactively, like connected. And I like the idea of it. Ben and I talked about it earlier. We said, there's value in it both ways. Now, you lose the value if you don't listen to both. If you don't listen to the podcast and watch the series, it probably doesn't give you as much. You don't get as much from it. I don't want it to be that you have to do both, but I want it to be for those who are doing both. I want one to feed the other a little bit, and add to the experience of it, add to the ability to share more information on it. Ultimately, that is one of the things that we are challenging ourselves with in 2021. What can we do to make the experience better for you? How can we share information better? How can we share it easier? Easier to consume, easier for us to put it out there. Because if it's easier for us to put it out there, I'm not just trying to make our lives easier. I kind of am, but not for the reason of just to make it easier. It's because if it's easier for us, we'll do it more. If we do it more, I think it's like training dogs. If you train dogs more, you usually get better results. If you get better results, it's easier to train them more. And the reason is because it's a circle. And things that we do well, we have more fun with. If we have more fun with it, we have a tendency to want to do it more. I had this conversation with my nephew and my brother-in-law this last weekend, and he said something about they were fishing, and they were fishing next to these guys that were had come over and fishing in the area of the lake that they live on. And my nephew joked and said, "Yeah, we're winning. I caught one right next to this old guy." And he laughed about it, and he wasn't saying it to be mean, but he's competitive when it came to that. And he said, "We're winning." And I said, "Jake, you don't win and lose when you're ice fishing. Like, you're having fun no matter what. It's not like you need to be winning or losing." And his dad looked at me and he said, "No, we're winning, and winning is a lot more fun. So we're okay with having fun, but we're going to win because it's more fun." I guess there's some truth to that. I think you got to be careful with that so that things don't take away from experiences. But the idea is the same. If you're doing well with it, winning, quote unquote, then it's easier to keep doing it. So for us, I want to make it easier for us to share more information with you, because I feel like that's going to get me more messages. I had several messages this week from different countries. A couple of them were DMs, Instagram, a couple were emails. But it was exactly what I'm talking about right now, is the idea of that is momentum, that is a push for me, that is like the stuff that keeps us going. That is the stuff that makes me say, it would have been very easy for Ben and I to say, "It's really crappy outside today. It's polar vortex time. Let's just not film something. We'll do something else." I got plenty of other stuff to do. So does he. But I said to him, we got to do something. We got to figure out how to keep this going, because there is some value in the consistency factor. And that's both technically in terms of trying to grow following with stuff. Like, you need to be consistent. But it's also easier for you to get value out of it when we are consistent. If we're choppy and jumpy, it makes it hard. So, where was I going with it? the idea of our Cali video tying in with our Cali podcast is important. And today we're going to be in place of the video. Now, I had a chance to think about Tuesday. Tuesday was a mess. If you watch the YouTube series, you'll see it. It's probably going to be about episode 7 or 8, something like that. It is the first video out of that series that didn't go well. I hope the majority of them don't go poorly, but there is a lot of value when things don't go well. And this is probably some of that value. So what am I going to do next? So the issue with her was I can't get her to come off a heel. I can't get her to get out. I can't get her to work independently. I've tried a couple different things. Had found some success with working her with another dog, which, it kind of relates back and makes me think of when we hunted Bella in some really tough conditions, flooded timber conditions. The fix for that, when we had that real terrible session, hunt it was, and it turned into a training session that went miserably wrong. The way we fixed it was, hindsight, I said, boy, I wish I would have had another dog here. So the next time we went, we brought another dog. It went way better. So I look back on that in the experience in the toolbox, and I go, okay, I can't get this dog to get out, and I don't want to get into too much details of the Cali thing because this will play before the videos, so you'll be a little bit out of sequence. But one of the issues I was running into with her was I couldn't get her confidence up to get out of heel position. She's so programmed to be right next to me because of the style of training that she was being trained for, and the style of hunting that they were training her to do was not to quarter and cast and flush. And now her owner, Tom, wants her to quarter, cast, and flush. So we're changing habits. I literally just wrote this article in the last 48 hours for Gundog, because Gundog has a series that we're writing, a column that we're writing, mirroring the series with Cali, just like we did with Bella Be Good. So the article that I just got done writing about was talking about the stuff that was more simplified that needed to be changed. Relatively easy changes to make. I didn't get into the more complicated formal field stuff, which is what we're going to talk about today and what we're experiencing right now in the training. That'll be in the next article. But I can't get her to leave my side. She's just so ingrained in being in heel. So I've tried lots of different ways of encouraging her verbally. I think one of the things I do too much because of the cameras is too much verbal talking. I've talked about that in the past, how I talk way more to the dogs with the cameras there than I do when they're not. And once again, that's true. And I could decide to not talk to the dogs like I think I should and communicate less with them verbally, more body language, and less distraction. I think that noise is distraction to them. We've talked about this in the past, how filming these series makes it hard and probably slows the progress down. That's what's happening here. That's what happened here. And so I could decide to not talk about it, but it would make it much more difficult for those watching on YouTube to understand what the hell is even going on. Because I feel like I have to have that balance of communicating with people the way people communicate and try to communicate with dogs the way dogs communicate. And the problem is those are two different ways. And so at the sacrifice of the dog, I'm communicating with people for the videos. And that is creating static and noise and distraction for the dog, which is creating an issue, which is part, I think, of the problem that we had in the last episode. The episode prior to that went pretty well, and I had incorporated, I think it was the episode before that I used Ellie. Mm-hmm. And I brought Ellie into the mix, and Ellie helped us greatly. One of our better sessions, I thought. It went really well. Ellie performed very well. Subsequently, so did Cali. So I tried to do it without a dog the following session, thinking, again, let's simplify it, let's keep it clean, let's have as few distractions as possible so I can focus on Cali and Cali can focus on the job at hand. And that session was actually going to be a lot of new stuff. We were going to shoot some flyers over her. We were going to have dummy launchers involved. We were going to be shooting and having her pick up some cold game to start out with. She's never picked up a fresh killed bird, so we were going to shoot pigeon over her. That would have been our flyer, but I thought, let's not have another dog involved with this. Let's just focus. Well, I couldn't. Without the other dog, I struggled to get her to move away from me. And so I'm trying to take, at that point, I'm trying in my head to take some pretty big jumps, pretty big leaps. Hindsight, I'm going, probably shouldn't have taken such a big jump. And so that's where the last 48 hours have allowed me to think about it and kind of regroup and replan. And I'm going to approach it differently next week. But with her, I couldn't get her to go out on her own. So I went back to the house and I thought, well, I'm going to get Spry, because Spry is a real energetic dog. And I'm going to use her. And it's a good reason to get Spry some work as well. So I brought her out. Well, Spry didn't work very well. She got out and she did all that stuff really well, but she wasn't very steady to the shot. She broke on a bird on us. So all of a sudden she is not necessarily a positive influence on Cali. And I warn people a lot about this. I don't like to train dogs together, primarily because most of the time it's a negative influence. It's not always a positive influence. There are times where you can have dogs have positive influences on other dogs. They got to be really well trained, and there's all these different elements that come into it. This, I was trying to get that, and it didn't happen. And so it compounded into multiple issues. A, Spry didn't perform very well. B, Cali did not relate to Spry like she did Ellie. So I just didn't even get the first part of it. I didn't get Cali to work away from me the way I wanted her to. And then when we did, and we shot some dummies first, it was a couple times that we did the dummy launchers, and Spry didn't stay steady. Cali was actually steadier than Spry. Well, it was a reminder to me of I haven't done much with Spry for a long time. So here I put Spry in a position that my mistake, I shouldn't have. Then she's a bad influence on Cali. Then I'm already upset because it's not going very smoothly with Cali the way I had wanted it to without another dog. So I went and got another dog, brought her out. It went even worse. So now we're back to the game of patience, or the lack of. And I had the lack of that day. And I started getting frustrated. And then I'm literally starting to feel heat, like I'm feeling warm. I'm feeling overly warm. It's anger, and it was a warmer day. I was dressed up for it to be too cold, a lot colder. All these things started. Then all of a sudden we have a thing with the dummy launcher that's not working, and I'm thinking Ben broke it. I mean, come on, what else can go wrong here? Well, then we realized that wasn't broken, so that, plus one in the plus side. So I felt a little bit better about that. But then we're going to go to the big grand finale. We're going to shoot the flyer, and the flyer gets thrown out, and the flyer dips down low, and it's not a safe shot, and Ben can't shoot it. And I don't blame Ben at all for this, at all. Like, I'm glad he didn't shoot. I probably would have been really pissed if he had. But I was like, why would I have expected it to go any differently? Why did I expect that bird to cooperate and do it the way I was hoping it to do it? Nothing's gone very well in this session. And so we just kept trying to push a little further and get something positive out of the session. And quite honestly, it was miserable, and it was a bit of a downward descent from the very essentially from the beginning. But here I am in front of a camera, 2 cameras at that point, because now we got 2 guys filming it, and we're getting fancy with our angles and all this. So I'm going, well, we got all these other things. We gotta get the training session to go good for the video. And that is the point. As soon as I had that thought, that was about the point that the wheels fell off, and I should have recognized it, realized it, and said, stop doing what you tell everybody not to do. And so I need those reminders. I fall into it the exact same as those who send me emails. And it's very easy for me to pick apart mistakes that other people make and say, do this, this, and this. You shouldn't have done this, this, and this. Sometimes it takes me realizing I should write the email to myself and probably respond, because I need to hear that as well. So I thought about it, and I went, well, those are all issues that I created. And I should have probably just swallowed my pride and said, you know what, let's just end this session, regroup it, think it over, set it up a little bit differently, set it up more appropriately. And that's fine. That's easy to say looking at it now. It's real easy to say when you watch it on YouTube. Like I'm I'm enjoying it. I'm getting better at it, I think, only because I'm getting older, maybe not caring as much about some things. But the other part of it is, I think, is I get older, I recognize my own weaknesses, and I'm okay with that as well. I'm not going to hide them from you guys. I don't know that I need to pretend that nothing ever goes wrong, and I don't know that I need to pretend that I know everything, because I don't. I won't pretend that I never make a mistake, because I do. And I don't think anybody doesn't. Sometimes I think we think others don't. But I don't know if they would even say that themselves if you asked them. So, what ended up happening was I thought about it, and I've actually completely changed the direction with how I think I'm going to get the dog to quarter and cast. Now, I'm not going to talk about it yet because we haven't filmed it, and I don't want to get the cart too far in front of the horse here. But I've got a different idea, and we're going to do that in this series. We're going to explain it in the series. We're going to film it, talk about it, because she's not doing what I think she should do. She's not adjusting the way I think she should adjust with this specific issue, her getting out of heel position. And I can continue to do it the way I've done it in the past, but it's not working with her. Like it used to be, I'd just say, all right, let's go. And I'd get dogs confident enough to get out. And then I'd reel them back in. And I'd do this thing where I'd get them out to a certain distance and reel them back in, get them out to a certain distance and reel them back in. And normally these dogs get out, they have that confidence, they have that understanding that they don't have to always be right next to me. Now, I'm not complaining about a dog that's always right next to me, because in fact, I really like that. She's got it all comes back to what she's had put in her up to this point, and it's all been very good. It's just been built and shaped differently for different needs than what we're going to be doing with her. And so now it's almost like, I put it in the article, the way I described it was, I have to rewire her. I don't have to start over. I don't have to demolish what's there. This isn't a building that needs to be torn down to the foundation and repoured. We need to put an addition onto the house. We might have to remodel the interior. We might have to do some things. So we're going to rewire some of the stuff that's already there. Take advantage of some of the stuff that's already there instead of scrapping it and starting over. But I'm going to have to do it in a way that I've not done it with before. And the reason is because the way I've always done it won't work with her, because her last 12 months of training, she's about 15 months. She's about, what do we figure, 15 or 16 months? 16 months old right now. So I've only had her for about 3 weeks. So, she's had training for, run the math quick, 14 months of training, and 3 weeks of it's been with me. So for 13 months of training, good training that she's had, it's just been done differently than I probably would have done it for 13 months. Not wrong, just different. And so when I start taking this part that's got 13 months of training and I try to fit it in to my puzzle, the piece isn't quite lining up. And so I either have to completely change the piece, or I have to completely change the spot where it's supposed to fit in my puzzle. I don't know that the answer is one or the other. I think it's a little bit of both. So I'm gonna rewire some of her. We've already done that with some simple stuff. Housebreaking being one of them. Not climbing up on top of me being one of them. There's some real simple basic stuff that she did out of habit that we've changed. Pretty easy. Her name started out Alice. It then went to Allie, and now it's Cali. And that happened in a matter of 2 weeks. I wrote about it. You'll have to read it in the Gun Dog magazine. Why that happened. There's a reason behind it. There's logic behind it. It worked because we were consistent with it. We were patient with it. And we made the change. Now we need to make some changes. And pretty quick here, this is the other thing, is pretty quick with her training, we're going to go beyond where she's been. It's not just changing what's already there. it's now kind of taking steps into uncharted waters. It's adding on sections of the road that are going through areas that we've not been before. And whenever we do that, that's when we're going to start getting back into stuff where I feel more comfortable, probably, because I got the toolbox full of tools with her, and now and I feel comfortable about it. I know them, I feel them, I read them, I understand them. And she knows, feels, reads, and understands me. There's a lot of trust that needs to be developed there. Now we can go chart into uncharted waters. Now we can go exploring a little bit. Now we can go into new territories because we're both on the same page. We both got the same plan. We both got the same box of tools to work with. Where right now, I don't know that we're there yet. I don't know that we can get into uncharted waters safely. I think we need to find the stuff that she's done and does and figure out how to fit it into the stuff we want her to do and have done in the past with our dogs. But to get her there is not going to be the exact same route that it was with any of my other dogs. Because all my other dogs had this 13 months prior with me. And backing up from that, those 13 months have all been different for every other dog too. So no two of my other dogs do it the exact same way either. Just like she is not going to do it the exact same way. My point with it all is, there's lots of different points in this one, but my point with it is, they're all a little bit different journeys. They all kind of start in the same spot, and they all kind of move in the similar direction. They just have lots of different paths on the way there. And with her, it's new to me. This is why I'm enjoying this dog and enjoying this process, because it's going to make me a better trainer, because I'm not dealing with a puppy that I trained from 8 weeks old on. Now, I'm not dealing with a puppy that has not had training from 8 weeks on. I'm not dealing with a puppy that's had what I consider to be poor training or not real productive training. I'm really lucky. I've got a dog that's had great training. They did a really nice job getting her to this point. It's just they didn't train her with us in mind. And why would they? They didn't know she was going to be here with me. They trained her with what they had in mind. And the way they were going to use her is different than the way we're going to use her. So we got to be able to manipulate and mold and shape and caress this a bit. And at the same time, the principles that we're going to do it with, that we're going to achieve it with, are going to be real similar. So anyone who's listened to a lot of the podcasts before, or watched a lot of the YouTube series, or follows us on Instagram or whatever, you're going to see a real common theme. You're going to see a thing that happens over and over and over again. It's just sequentially, it's probably going to look a little bit different. And you're going to, I don't know that I've ever done a podcast like this where I reflect back on a session that went like hell and went, but if it hadn't snowed out, we wouldn't have done this podcast. So we would have been outside filming. Now and so it's just going to take a few more days. And so I've had some people explain to me on YouTube that how I waste a lot of time with dogs and a valuable time. I could do things a lot quicker and all that. I don't debate on YouTube. I don't debate with other people that are telling me how I do things wrong. I think they can do things however they want, and they should. I'm not going to debate the idea, because here's my take on that, and my answer to that is, sure, I could do things a lot faster, but my problem is when I do that, it creates other issues. I don't have an issue with it taking longer. Kind of enjoy it. And the reason is because I have come to enjoy the training part of the process as much or more than the end product. So my question back to them is, why would I want to rush through it? Why would I want to get through it any faster? I kind of like it. I don't want to get done with things fast. It's like playing golf. If the winner is the first guy done, I don't want to play. Because to me, the idea of playing around a golf is not to see how quickly I can finish it. It's to actually drag it out as best I can. I really enjoy it. I don't go fishing to hurry up and get done fishing. That's a different mindset or a mentality or approach. I look at dogs the same way. I don't. The best part for me about training a dog is not finishing up. It's usually the sad part. It's the part I like the least. So keep that in mind. This is not a Cali Keep On, but it might end up kind of being a Cali Keep On. We might end up tying it into the series because it's the first time we've looked at digging into a crossover of our platforms. And I know that they're all different. I know the podcast is different. I know that you're consuming it differently. I do. I listen to podcasts in different situations than I would watch a YouTube channel or video or series or whatever. But I also think that I think we can make the impact of it all together more and more valuable if we start thinking about it with the mindset of, let's piggyback some of these, let's tie some of these together, let's allow for this thing to become more robust instead of making it be real linear of, this is a YouTube series, this is a podcast. I kicked around ideas with Ben today about podcast episodes. I would like to see us become a better podcast because there's a hell of a lot of them out there right now. And I think what we need to do is make sure that we're not just another podcast. I've listened to some podcasts that I go, it's not very good. So we're going to push ourselves to make the podcast better. We're going to push ourselves to make our YouTube stuff better. We're going to push ourselves to do more. We're going to push ourselves to work with. One of the things that we're going to do is we're going to work with some people this year that I think can add value to the experience that you guys are hopefully getting out of it. Constant improvement, I think, is real important. My business partner Scott always says, you gotta be a lifelong learner. I've talked about that in the past. You gotta be a lifelong learner, and I think if you are a lifelong learner, you're also a lifelong improver. Like I have this desire to improve with whatever it is that we're doing. So that's it. As an episode, a little bit of a crossover episode. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, I'm going to ask you to subscribe it. If this is your first one, welcome. I feel like you might be interested in some of our other ones because we're going to, like I just said, we're going to try to improve on them. But B, some of our old ones, I just think there's a ton of stuff that, because of how we've done them, my hope is that they're beneficial to a lot more people than just the one or two, just the people that have reached out and helped us to create some of the topics. I think by sharing them with more people, that's where the true value comes. So that's where I look at you guys, and I think of you guys as a real key instrumental part of growing this, making us better, is as you provide us with good topics to talk about. You're helping your fellow dog trainer. Because if you've got the question, so does someone else. So don't hesitate to reach out with them. Please subscribe to the podcast if you would. Leave us a review if you're listening on an app. We're doing some giveaways. If you're following us on we're going to be doing them on Instagram and Facebook. So if you're on Instagram or Facebook, we've got some giveaways. We just released, I don't think we went live with it yet, but we're releasing a giveaway. We're going to give away one-on-one consultation. So it's going to be a 45-minute. It's going to be a Zoom call. It's probably going to eventually be a podcast. But we want to help someone deeper than just sending me an email. So we've had a lot of people ask us, especially in the last year, will we do consultations? Will we do one-on-one trainings? Can we do stuff digitally? People live in all sorts of corners of the world. It's not something that just works that well for us. And so, but I've been asked about it long enough now by enough people that I went, maybe it is something we should look at, and I don't want to charge for it. I know there's lots of different ways to do it where people monetize it. I don't want to. That's not what we want to do. We said, let's follow the theme, man. Let's give it to someone. So I can't do them all day, every day, but we're going to do it as a giveaway. So if you're following us on Instagram, it's going to be simple. All you got to do is you're going to just do the usual. Like it, share it, comment, tag someone into the comments, and be entered in. We're going to draw a winner, and then we're going to see how that goes. Because I've got ideas that we're going to actually build off of that. We've got some cool stuff, I think, planned for this year. So that's it. Went probably a little bit longer than normal, but appreciate you listening through. It helps me to talk through it. I didn't get into the specifics of what I think I'm going to do for this fix, but it was like light bulb moments for me. It really was one of these things where I went, try this instead. I thought I knew what to do and it didn't work. It's worked before. Why didn't it work this time? For a variety of reasons. So try something different. And I'm going to try it, and then we're going to film it. And if it doesn't work, you're going to see me go back to the drawing board. If it works, I'm going to put it in the back of my mind and go, somewhere down the road I might use that with another dog. And that, me doing it for the first time and it working, might work for you. Might not. You might have to do it the way I've done it with all my other dogs before this. But the more we can experiment and find works or doesn't work, the better it's going to be for us to try to help others that have the same problems.